Welcome to today's deep dive. We're unpacking a genuinely fascinating source today. It's a transcript from an educational series called English Practice World.
Yeah, it's a really great piece of material.
It really is. And our mission today is to explore the hidden psychology of why we compare ourselves to others, right? Like why the digital age makes that comparison sting so much more than it used to.
Right, and more importantly, how we can actually outsmart our own jealousy.
Exactly. Because, okay, I want you, the listener, to picture this. Have you ever been sitting on your couch just casually scrolling on your phone and you suddenly feel like an absolute failure because an acquaintance just bought a house?
Oh, absolutely.
But here is the kicker. It's a house in a neighborhood you don't even like.
Right. Yeah.
Or maybe you felt this sudden crushing wave of envy because a colleague got a promotion, but it was for a management job that you would actually hate doing.
Yes, that is such a universal thing.
Right, you're sitting there feeling completely inadequate over something you don't even want.
It is a highly relatable, completely irrational human experience.
Yeah.
I mean, we are making ourselves miserable over prizes we aren't even trying to win.
Yeah.
And it leaves you with this lingering, uncomfortable feeling that you are somehow falling behind in a race you never even signed up for.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because there is a quote in the source material that just completely nails this universal feeling.
Oh, I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah, one of the speakers describes it not as being jealous of the house or the job itself, but rather this quiet sinking feeling of, quote, everyone else got the instructions and I missed the meeting.
That phrasing captures the core of the issue beautifully, doesn't it?
It really does. It's so visceral.
Because what we are really talking about here isn't material envy at all. It's a crisis of belonging and competence.
Right.
And what's fascinating here is that this deep dive isn't just going to give you the standard, tired advice to, simply stop comparing yourself to others.
Because that's impossible.
Exactly. We know that telling someone to stop comparing is biologically impossible. So instead, we're going to look at the precise mechanics of why comparison happens.
Yeah, and more importantly, we are going to provide you with actionable strategies and the specific vocabulary you need to actively regain control of your mental space.
Right, which is so crucial right now.
It is. But before we get to the fix, we really have to look at the scale of the problem. Like, we've established that comparison is this universal, very human instinct.
Mm-hmm.
But reading through these sources, it becomes clear that we need to understand the mechanics of why it feels so uniquely punishing right now in the modern era before we can even attempt to redirect it.
Yeah, to understand that, we have to look at the math of jealousy.
The math of jealousy. I love that.
Right. Historically speaking, human brains were built to compare ourselves to a very small, very local group. I mean, we evolved in tight-knit tribes.
Right.
And even just a few decades ago, you were comparing yourself to maybe 20 or 30 people on a regular basis.
Your neighbors, your classmates, stuff like that.
Exactly. Your immediate coworkers. And the key is you knew their full context.
Oh, yeah, you had the whole picture. You knew if the guy with the pristine lawn was also, like, secretly drowning in credit card debt.
Right. Or if the woman with the amazing corporate job was constantly stressed and unhappy.
Precisely. The data pool was small, and it was complete.
But today, you are comparing yourself to thousands of people you have never even met.
Thousands. It's just wild.
The sheer volume of comparison points has completely overwhelmed our biological scaling.
And it's not just the volume of people, right? It's the curated nature of the data we're receiving.
Oh, definitely.
The source material uses this house analogy that clarifies the mismatch perfectly. They point out that we are unfairly comparing our, quote, whole messy day.
Which includes the dirty dishes in the sink.
Right. The unpaid bills on the counter, the bad moods, the exhaustion. We're comparing all of that to someone else's best 5 seconds.
Yes.
We are holding up our actual lived-in reality against a polished photo with good lighting and absolutely no evidence of actual life.
It is the ultimate asymmetrical warfare against your own self-esteem.
Asymmetrical warfare. That is exactly what it feels like.
I mean, nobody is broadcasting the bitter argument they had with their spouse in the rental car right before taking that beautiful vacation photo at the beach.
No, of course not. You only see the smile and the sunset.
And the danger is that your brain processes that curated highlight reel as reality.
Yeah.
The gap between their perfect projection and your messy reality is exactly where that feeling of inadequacy takes root. It basically tricks you into thinking your perfectly normal life is a problem.
Right. But I want to push back on the inevitability of this, or at least try to understand the mechanics of how it gets delivered to us.
Okay, sure.
Because is this just a natural side effect of the internet? Like, is it just human nature running wild on a new, highly visible platform? Or is there an active mechanism driving this feeling?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, we find a much darker truth highlighted in the source.
Okay.
This isn't just human nature stumbling through a digital town square. It is the algorithm.
The algorithm.
Yes, the platforms we use are specifically engineered to keep us engaged, to keep our eyes on the screen.
Right. They want our attention.
And they don't just show us random people. The algorithms are finely tuned to feed us content of people who are slightly ahead of us.
Ah, so they figure out your demographic, your interests, your general income bracket, and they serve you people who are just slightly richer, slightly fitter, or slightly more put together.
Exactly. It's not a random window into the world at all. It's a highly specific mirror.
A mirror designed to make you feel slightly behind.
Because if you feel slightly behind,
You keep looking.
right, you keep scrolling for the answer, for the product, for the lifestyle inspiration to close that artificial gap.
Wow.
The creators posting the content aren't necessarily trying to make you feel bad, but the system distributing those posts is actively leveraging your evolutionary comparison instinct to retain your attention.
That is so insidious. If the system is actively weaponizing our insecurities, the natural knee-jerk reaction would be to just declare that all comparison is toxic.
Right.
You'd think the goal should be to completely isolate ourselves from competition. But wait, is comparison always the villain here?
Well,
Because in the real world, competition can be incredibly motivating, right?
it can be. And this raises an important question, which the source addresses directly. No, comparison is not automatically toxic.
Okay, good.
The source introduces a critical concept to explain the divergence, which we can call the distance rule.
The distance rule.
Yes, and it hinges on the psychological difference between near comparison and far comparison.
So wait, is that literal physical distance? Like comparing myself to someone in a different country? Or are we talking about psychological distance?
It is primarily about psychological distance and attainability. Let's look at near comparison first. Imagine a real-life friend of yours, someone you know well, someone with a similar background, starts running every morning. And over 6 months, they get genuinely fit.
Okay, yeah.
When you look at their progress, you probably don't feel a toxic, crushing jealousy.
No, because I know them. It's the attainability factor. When the gap is small, I see the effort they put in. I know they have a normal, chaotic schedule, just like me.
Right?
My brain probably views their success as a tutorial rather than a threat.
That is exactly the mechanism at play. Their success shows you a path.
Shows you a path. Yeah.
Because of that proximity, their achievement feels possible for you. It gives your brain a literal next step to follow, which is highly motivating.
Okay, so what about far comparison then?
Far comparison is when you see a 22-year-old stranger on the internet
Yeah.
giving a tour of their curated multi-million-dollar mansion.
Right, yeah. The distance between my reality and their presented reality is a chasm. I don't see the path they took. I don't see the effort. Honestly, I don't even know if the mansion is just rented for the afternoon.
Right, you have no context.
It's too far away to provide any useful data or a next step. So instead of feeling like a path, it feels like a punch.
It breeds resentment. And it does that because your brain processes their astronomical success as a depletion of resources in the zero-sum game, but it offers you no roadmap to compete.
That makes so much sense.
This is why we can't just tell people to stop comparing. We are biologically wired to use comparison to figure out where we are in the social hierarchy,
Yeah, to gauge our safety.
and to understand what's possible. Shaming yourself for comparing your life to others is like shaming yourself for having a pulse.
Right.
The goal isn't to turn off the biological machine. The goal is to carefully curate who you allow the machine to process, shifting from far comparisons that punch you to near comparisons that show you a path.
Okay, but since we know we can't just flip a switch and turn off this biological tool, how do we manually steer it? Like, how do we survive a normal Tuesday with all these digital mirrors constantly flashing in our faces?
Well, the sources outline 3 really pragmatic strategies to build a moat around our attention.
Oh, perfect. What's the first one?
The first one is a brilliant cognitive reframe. We can call it the Tuesday benchmark.
The Tuesday benchmark.
Yeah. Instead of comparing your life to a stranger's highlight reel, the source suggests comparing yourself to your own Tuesday from a year ago.
Oh, I see. So it's not about comparing bank accounts or major milestones.
Not at all.
It's comparing, like, The fact that I didn't lose my temper in traffic yesterday, whereas a year ago I absolutely would have.
Exactly.
Or maybe I speak up in meetings now without my heart racing quite as fast.
Yes. You are identifying the unglamorous progress.
Unglamorous progress. I like
And
that.
when you compare yourself to yourself a year ago, you immediately lower the bar to a realistic, achievable level.
Yeah, you're competing in your own weight class, basically.
Right. It forces your brain to acknowledge the subtle, foundational life changes that nobody on the internet is ever going to applaud.
Right, because nobody sees it.
But these are profound psychological victories, even if they aren't photogenic. By making your past self the benchmark, you give your brain the dopamine hit of progress without the toxic gap of far comparison.
But comparing yourself to a past Tuesday only works if you aren't constantly being bombarded by those far comparisons, right?
Yes, that is the catch.
You actually have to control the incoming data, which leads to the second strategy from the source, the quiet unfollow.
The quiet unfollow.
And here's where it gets really interesting, because unfollowing accounts that make us feel small sounds like the easiest, most obvious advice in the world.
It does.
But when you actually hold your thumb over the button, it feels surprisingly difficult. Like, we hesitate. We do
Yeah.
this immense amount of guilt, almost like we're being rude.
It's true. We feel a bizarre sense of social obligation, even to absolute strangers, or, to people from high school we haven't spoken to in over a decade.
Exactly. Why do we do that?
It stems from that same evolutionary mismatch we talked about earlier. In a small tribe, actively ignoring or rejecting someone carried severe social consequences.
It was literally dangerous.
Right. But online, it's just a data feed. And the source offers a profound takeaway to combat this lingering evolutionary guilt.
What does it say?
It states, your feed is not a moral duty. It is your mental space.
Your feed is not a moral duty. It is your mental space. Just hearing that reframes the entire interaction for me.
You are not ethically obligated to consume content that spikes your cortisol and drains your energy.
Yeah.
You are allowed to set a boundary. And the beautiful part of the quiet unfollow is that there is no drama. You don't have to make a grand announcement.
Right. You don't have to post about it.
The other person genuinely will never know. You're simply choosing to remove a specific unhelpful mirror from your cognitive load.
Just quietly curating your mental space. I love that.
Yeah.
But, even with a highly curated feed, envy is going to slip through. We're human. And that brings us to the third strategy, which is all about interrogation. When you feel that inevitable spike of jealousy, instead of just sitting in the misery of it, you stop and ask yourself, what is this comparison actually pointing at?
This is the pivot from passive suffering to active self-reflection.
Okay, how so?
When you feel that pang of envy over someone's promotion, you have to investigate the signal. Is this pointing at a real goal that you've been actively ignoring? Do you actually want to take on leadership responsibilities? Are you frustrated because you know you're capable of more and you've been playing it safe?
Right. If the answer is yes, then the comparison is actually incredibly useful data.
Exactly.
It's the wake-up call. But on the flip side, I could interrogate that feeling and realize, wait, no, I would absolutely despise being a manager.
Right.
I hate endless meetings, I hate managing budgets, and I love being an individual contributor.
And in that moment, you realize the comparison isn't about the job at all.
It's just noise.
It's simply the ego's primal fear of being left behind. It's that exact feeling of everyone else got the instructions and I missed the meeting.
Wow, yeah.
Recognizing the difference between a suppressed ambition and algorithmic noise
Yeah.
is a massive step in regaining your peace of mind.
But to do any of this effectively, to interrogate the feeling, to recognize the noise, to curate our mental space, we need the right tools.
I do.
We need to be able to accurately diagnose what is happening in our own heads. And the source material spends a significant amount of time on linguistic upgrades.
Yes, this part is fascinating
They call them Say It Better gems, focusing heavily on the vocabulary of emotion.
because the vocabulary we use isn't just descriptive, it is functional.
Functional.
Yes, there is a psychological concept called affect labeling. Neuroimaging studies show that when you put your feelings into highly specific words, it actually downregulates the amygdala.
The amygdala, that's the brain's alarm system, right?
Exactly. When we hide our complex emotions behind broad, blunt words like bad or angry, our brain stays in a state of generic threat.
It doesn't know what to do.
Right. But when we search for a precise label, the prefrontal cortex engages, overriding the panic response.
That explains so much. It's not just about sounding more articulate. It's literally changing how the brain processes the emotion.
It is.
Let's look at how the source applies this. The first upgrade. Instead of saying, I feel bad when I see other people's success, the upgrade is seeing other people's success makes me feel inadequate.
Because bad is a dead end.
Right.
It offers no clues for a solution. But inadequate is diagnostic. It specifically names the gap.
It tells you exactly what's wrong.
It tells you exactly what the comparison is doing to you.
Yeah.
It's triggering a feeling that you aren't enough. And once you label the emotion as inadequacy, your prefrontal cortex can step in and ask, wait, inadequate at what? And by whose standard?
That is so powerful. Here's another one that requires a pretty high level of self-awareness. Instead of saying, I post on social media to feel good about myself, the source suggests admitting, sometimes I post just to get a little validation.
It strips away the defensive pretense.
It really does.
We all want to be seen, and we all want to know we are doing okay in the eyes of our peers. Acknowledging that you are seeking validation removes the shame.
Right.
It labels a very standard human need without pretending it's just about, sharing joy.
Yeah, we're not just sharing joy, we want those likes. And this next one tackles a really uncomfortable social dynamic. Instead of saying, I feel angry when my friend does better than me, you upgrade the language to, I feel a bit of resentment when a friend gets ahead.
Anger is a loud, explosive, immediate emotion.
Yeah.
Resentment is much quieter, it operates on a longer timeline, and it's heavily tied to our sense of fairness.
It's that bitter, why not me feeling.
Exactly. By specifically naming it as resentment and adding a bit to soften the blow to your own ego, you can admit the feeling is present without labeling yourself as a fundamentally terrible friend.
Right, you're just noticing a human reaction.
Yes.
The distinction is so subtle, but so powerful. And this one ties directly back to our distance rule. Instead of saying, that post made me want to give up, you articulate it as, that post left me feeling discouraged instead of inspired.
That perfectly encapsulates the effect of far versus near comparison.
It does.
Did the post show you an attainable path and inspire you? Or did it punch you with an impossible gap and leave you discouraged?
Right.
It clarifies the exact mechanical effect the content had on your cognitive state.
There's a specific phrase the source uses for self-comparison that I found incredibly pragmatic. The upgrade from comparing to my old self is better to comparing myself to last year gives me a fairer perspective.
Love that one.
The use of the words fairer perspective, it's a strategic phrasing. It appeals directly to our inherent sense of logic and justice.
It absolutely does.
Yeah.
When you tell your brain you are seeking a fairer perspective, you are deliberately engaging the rational executive functioning part of your mind. You are stepping out of the emotional spiral of jealousy and stepping into the role of an objective arbiter. You are literally instructing your brain to evaluate the data without bias.
That is just brilliant.
Words are the handles we use to grasp our experiences. If you have the right handles, you can manage the experience.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to pull all of these mechanics together and speak directly to you, the listener. We've covered the algorithms designed to keep you feeling slightly behind, the biological difference between paths and punches, and the neurological power of labeling your emotions.
We covered a lot of ground today.
We did. But if you take nothing else away from this, remember the house analogy. Your entire complex, messy, beautifully chaotic life with all the dirty dishes, the unpaid bills, the daily doubts, and the quiet triumphs is not supposed to be measured against someone else's highly edited, perfectly lit best 5 seconds.
No, it's not.
It is a rigged game and you don't have to play it.
So what does this all mean? It means we have to accept our biological reality. We will never fully stop comparing ourselves to others.
Plus, the hardware is built in.
Right. But we are not helpless at the mercy of it. We can choose to compare on purpose rather than by accident.
Yes.
We can actively seek out near comparisons that motivate us. We can benchmark against our past selves to validate our quiet progress. And we can ruthlessly curate our mental space to protect our peace.
We can take control of the mirror. And that leaves us with one final thought to mull over, building on this concept of interrogating the feeling of jealousy.
Okay.
If comparison is truly just a natural biological tool that our brains use to figure out where we are, what might happen if you stopped fighting it? What might you discover about your true, hidden ambitions if you stopped treating every pang of jealousy over a house or a job as a personal failure and instead started treating it as a compass?
A compass. I like that.
Yeah, a compass pointing exactly toward what you actually want out of life, just waiting for you to finally pay attention.